everyone, welcome back. My name is Rob. So early on, when I first started making videos, I made one about how to make X pattern style paneling out of MDF, and I was using VCarve Pro to do that. So today I actually have to do that for a customer. So I figured I would just make a video going over how I do that because I still use VCarve Pro for those kinds of things, even when I use Cabinet Vision for the majority of everything else. So what I am going to be doing here is that I have a simple island for a job. It's only 62 inches. It's only 62 inches wide by 24 deep. And if we take a look at the front of it, let's take a look at the front. Let's what we got going on here? Not what I wanted. All right, so if we take a look at the front, we've got just a sink, a dishwasher, and then a an end panel here. And so we're gonna have the X patterns here, and we're gonna have the X patterns here, and then we're also gonna have it on the back here. So there'll be a total of 3 panels, and what I did was is I made a room here with the 3 panels that I'm going to need, and it's going to be one is going to be 62 inches wide by 35 tall, and then two for the sides. I'm going to make them 23 1/4, and then that remaining 1/4 inch of the face, 3/4 inches of the face frame will finish it out to 24, and so that's how I get those sizes here. So um, yeah, so that's what we're going to do. So we're going to jump over here into VCarve Pro. I'm using version 11.5. I know 12's out. It looks really cool. Haven't got a chance to check it out, mostly because you got to pay for it, but uh, hopefully I'll get around to it here soon. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a new file, and I'm going to hold Control and Shift and hit create a new file. And what that does is it allows me to change my modeling resolution. If you have, probably you need I won't say like a screaming fast computer, but the computer I'm using now, hopefully it can handle this. And I'm only doing this so that way, because I'm using lower quality video, so that way you can see it, so it shows up in. All right, so we're going to do job size 96 by 48 by 3/4. That is the size of the HDF slabs that I got. And then machine bed for the 0 position, bottom left corner for the datum. Everything looks good. We're going to hit OK. So, all right, so the secret here is that we're going to make a total of 3 panels. You you want everything to start down at the 0 0 point. It just makes it easy. So we're going to design all 3 panels down here, and then we'll move them around. And in this case, we're going to need 2 sheets of MDF. So first thing we're going to do here is we're going to go to the draw rectangle, and we're just going to build out our the bigger one first, just the outer rectangle. We're going to anchor this down here at 0 0 0 0, and it just makes it easier because that way we start from 0 when we want to do anything. 62 wide, 35 tall, 3/8. Okay, so this is the outermost point. So from here we're going to do an inner offset, and basically what I'm doing is I'm getting it to the stage before you would add any X's, as if it was like a regular shaker thing. So we're going to offset this inward 3 inches. And okay, so that looks good. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to make this the bottom of the panel. And I want it to be a little thicker. So I'm going to do a horizontal guide. I'm going to right click, and this is just for us here, but we're going to do a 5 1/4. Kind of arbitrary, but it is pretty common to see a thicker bottom part at a panel. It looks nicer. So we've got that here. So now we need to raise this up here. And the easiest way to do that is just to grab our line tool with snapping on, where you see those dots, and we're going to just draw a line on either side of that guide. And once we've got that, we're going to use our trim, and let's just trim it out. Okay, so let's go ahead and delete this guide. And so now it looks pretty good, but because it's as wide as it is, we need to put a middle piece. So this one's going to have a center piece and then probably an X on each side. So we know it's 62. So let's put a vertical guide at 31. Hit apply. And so that'll get us our center point. So from here, we know that we're going to do 3 inches here. So if we go relative to guide under create new parallel guides, and we want to go inch and a half one way, inch and a half the other, we'll start here with that minus sign, and then let's just go ahead and delete that minus, and then that'll bump to the other side, and then we can delete that middle guide so that way we can see what we're doing. And same deal, we're going to draw a line on the bottom part of the guides here. There we go. And let's just go ahead and delete it so we can see where we're at this stage. And then same deal here. We will take our interactive trim and let's go ahead and get rid of that. So that's great. So this is exactly where we would be if we were doing just a shaker style panel inside of VCarve. So the next thing we want to do obviously is add the X's. So before we do that, in this video here, you can see that there are two different, I guess, like styles of X patterns. And after doing some Google searches, I found there was kind of two. And so if you can see here on the left, you've got the X starting in the center of the corner, and then the right picture, it is kind of offset down. Kind of, up to I guess whoever's making the call of what they think looks better. But on this job, I'm going to start in the center of the corner because it's just easier to do, and I think it looks better. So that's what we're going to do. So to do that, we obviously need to get our angles in each corner. So let's right click and let's do we're going to do a guide, and we're going to do an angled guide through 2 points. So we're going to do this point. We're just going to do to each side, just like that. And there we have it. So we've got the X's in the center. So now all we need to do is we need to offset them in either direction. So it's the same deal. So you go to one guide, you're going to do a negative 1.5 and then a positive 1.5. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the center guides out of everything because we got a lot of guides going on. And if you're ever doing stuff you need to hide them, right here in the corner, this is how you toggle them on and off. And if you get to this point, if you move these guides, they stay moved. You can't undo that. There's no undo feature for the guide. So if you want to lock them down, you can come in and lock all guides down. And that way, you cannot accidentally move them. Now, if they have them locked, I've not tried this. We'll see if the snapping feature still works. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing we did earlier with the line tool. So we're just going to draw lines dissecting each point, and sometimes it can it might seem like it's hard to get it exactly on the guide, but in the real world, as long as you get it really close, I've had good success doing this, and I don't notice any problems, at least with the naked eye. So let's do this to each one. Because you got to remember the tooling goes straight. It's going to go straight from one point to the other. So the tooling is generally going to produce a straight line, even if your paths look a little, like they could be a little squirrely. That's pretty good. Okay, so got all the lines drawn across the guides. So let's go ahead and hide them. And the same drill with our interactive trim. I'm going to start deleting all of the lines that we do not need. Okay, so this looks pretty good if you ask me. So, okay, so let's say we're good. We're gonna call this one good here. So let's go ahead and save our. It's always good to save X pattern MEP. Save. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and move this out of the way. In fact, actually, no, we're not. We're gonna leave this here, but I'm actually going to move it up a little and over just so that way it's not on the edge. So that way my tooling's got, when I actually run this thing, it's got a little bit of a meat to cut it off. So, okay, the back of the panel looks good. So what we want to do here is we're going to just make a second sheet. So this sheet one, let's go ahead and rename this. You can rename this to 62. That's the big one. So let's just add a new sheet. And I'm just going to put 32, 32, 23. Let's see, 23.25 MEP. All right, so if we zoom out, we can see we've got our 23. So we're gonna have two over here, one over here. So let's go back to drawings. Now this one, we still want the 35 tall, but we're gonna do 23 and a quarter. Just make sure these are zeroed out. We're gonna hit create. And the good thing here is that we only need to build one of these because they're both the same, and then we can just copy them. So the one there's going to be, so this one's going to be a little bit different because so we still want to have this. Okay, see, I'm actually going to go ahead. Let me delete all these guides a second. I wish you could toggle on guides per sheet. I feel like there's a list of things I'd like to submit to VCarve, like turning guides into lines. I wish there was a convert from guide to line, straight to line feature. I think that would be best, but I'm just a guy on the internet. So anyway, let's go ahead and delete all the guides, and let's go ahead and put back a horizontal guide here. So we know that we want that to be 5 1/4, and it doesn't line up here because we raised this up a little bit, but otherwise it would. So we want that to line up, and then we want the 3 inch here in here, but this one of these ends is going to have to butt up to the face frame uh, of the cabinet, and so the face frame of the cabinet's 3 quarters, and so I want it to total 3. So I actually need to make the side that butts up to the cabinet 3/4 inch short, so 2 1/4 inch thick. So that way, when you butt it up, it's 3. So we can do one way we can do this. So we can do the same. Let's just go ahead and enter offset inwards 3 inches, just like that. And then let's go ahead and draw the line. here, and we can go ahead and get rid of that. And then let's delete this. And so then from here, I can do a vertical line. And instead of 3, so if I go 3 inches, it puts us right where we want to be. But I'm actually going to do 2 1/4. And that way, once I move this over, you can imagine that the scribe of the face frame comes out another 3/4 of an inch there. So we're gonna add a line. Let's go out here and let's just make a square, just like that. Now we should be able to just get rid of that. There we go. And that does it there. And so when we copy this, we're actually going to have to reverse we're going to have to reverse it because we want this to be on the other side on the other one. So we will have to keep that in mind. So same deal here. Let's insert an angled grip, an angled guide. Must have Call of Duty on my mind or something. Angled grip. Uh-oh, we missed it a little bit here. So let's delete that. Let's try that one more time. Insert angled guide. Okay, right there. Perfect. All right, so same deal. We're going to do negative 1.5, positive 1.5. Same thing here. Okay. All right, looks just like we want it. So let's do the same deal with the lines here. All right, so we've got the lines drawn. Let's get rid of these guides and let's get rid of this stuff here. And if you guys are drawing and you like, if you're questioning whether or not like your lines are connected or whatever, you can always select an area that should be connected, hit J, and then if this is highlighted where you can click it, then that means the line is not joined together and you have a break somewhere. So, but all these look good. They're all selecting, so we're good here. So now in theory, I should be able to copy, paste, move this guy out of the way. But like I said, we need to mirror this one. So let's hit mirror. We want to flip horizontally, just like that. Because if you think of it like this and it goes, you want one to be on the left side, one to be on the right side. It wouldn't matter if there was 3 inches all the way around, but because we have this 5 1/4 fatter part at the bottom, it does matter where we put them. So now what I do when I'm using VCarve, so if I go back to let's go back to this one a second. So Cabinet Vision's pretty good with the waste, but VCarve just does whatever you tell it to. So let's create you can leave it on one layer or you could do a new layer, doesn't matter, whatever. But let's say we're gonna draw a line and we're basically gonna tell we want to cut the waste parts that we know we can use again. So let's say we want this piece and something like this. And so you can kind of section it off when you just assign toolpaths to that so you can kind of cut your waste cuts to where you can maximize your yield. So that looks pretty good there. Let's do the same thing here. Let's And we can use our arrow keys to get as close as we need. We'll just leave it at that for now. There you go. Okay, so that looks good. Maybe even drop that down a little bit more. Get rid of that. So what I probably would do is I would let it run the full rip there. And or you could do it here. It just depends, like wherever you feel like you're gonna maximize. It's however you want to maximize your waste. Maybe that's even a better way to do it. Would be to do it here and maybe get rid of that. And we don't want that to do that. So what we'll do is we're going to go to node, we're going to hit N, we're going to hit C, and that's going to break that up. So see how, so that was one, we're going to break that up and we're going to connect that with here. So now let's hit J for join. So now we've got that is all one and that is all two, because I don't want the bit making an L shape. I want it going straight down one and then down the other if it needs to. So all right, so that looks pretty good. Okay, so let's take a second to talk about tool setup because it can be not as straightforward. It just depends. Um, so the tooling that I use is a uh, I use an 1/8 inch for the corners, a 1/4 inch, and then I think I have like an I think the pocketing tool I have on there is like an inch. But sometimes you can get some weirdness that happens in the corners. And so this is where you kind of got to use a little trial and error, critical thinking of like how you set up the tools. Like for me, I have found that I will do it all and then I will take my 1/8 inch and I will run basically a cleanup pass on the inside of everything to just kind of clean it up. And I found that sometimes I have to do that. But so if we go, actually, let's go back here and before we do anything, we can do some things to make our life simpler. So like if we highlight all of these, we should be able to group them. And then the same goes for here. We should be able to group basically all of these intersections that we want, these inner parts, not intersections, but these inner parts that we know we're going to pocket. So that way, if we go to the pocketing toolpath, um, I don't have, let's see, the depth. We're going to do 3/8 here. Let's see what I have. So this is not, uh, let's see. I just downloaded this to a new computer, so I'm not going to do anything here. So I do not have anything set up here. So let's go ahead and add, we're just going to do this just for the sake of this, so that way I can demonstrate. So let's select that. And see what it's doing here is it's grouping tools together to see if they can do it all. So it's going to say, hey, start with the bigger one, work your way down. These are your passes, how many times it's going to go through. And a lot of this is just going to be like kind of trial and error. um how how you need to do it. Like you might not need 8 passes. That seems excessive for some of these because you're doing the main one down here with the half inch. But let's just take a look. So if we calculated it out, we preview our visible. All right, we can see that surface level that looks pretty good. So and what I'm saying for me personally, like even though this graphic's kind of jaggedy, this is kind of a good example where every now and then I'll get some like weird stuff on the edge. And so that's where I will take that 1/8 inch bit and I will run it around and I'll do like a clean pass, kind of like a cleanup pass. And it works really, really well. But the essentially you need to set up your tool your grouping of tools and just experiment and see what it does. And then, you can kind of like, you can say, hey, look, this guy's doing the majority of the work. I don't need this guy to do 8 passes all the way down. Like he can go down to like 2, and that'll speed up your time tremendously. Same here, like 2 or 1 for the quarter inch. So basically, what it does, it's trying to get into that radius, and so it'll take the biggest tools you have and then slowly work itself into the radius. Um, but yeah, and so then from here, if we go to the outer part, it's always really tough talking about tooling because everyone's setup is different, and so it's tough to kind of say like this is how you need to do it. Um, but like I would not use this. I have a 3/8 compression to do the final cutout. This is just to show you guys. It's more in the design of it. It's, there's two aspects to this. There's the design and then there's, the CNC side. It's a lot to make it all come together, but it definitely is fun and it's very fulfilling when you do get there. So yeah, so the same thing to the other one. I mean, same setup, but basically the design, that's kind of what I want to focus on here. Like I do this, so like I know that this would come out or will come out uh good. Like it'll come out acceptable to put on, a job in the real world. So anyway, well, hopefully this was educational. You learned something. Had to do it anyway, so I thought I'd bring you guys along. I don't want to drag this out any longer than I have to because it's the same, same principle here. You got these already grouped together. You can just, go through and you will have to like, you know, trial and error is just going to be a part of everything you do when it comes to, implementing a design to the machine. It's just a part of it. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.